Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Energy Unleashed. My name is Suzanne Worthley, and I am with my co-host, Kim Hess. Hey, Kim. We're
Good
trying to
morning.
decide if our words are going to come out on this one or not because it's kind of early. Anyway, okay. Well, I think it's funny that we're giggling because this is going to be kind of an interesting topic for us today, Kim. I want to talk about conspiracy theories.
Oof.
Right? Yeah. Oh,
I know. Yeah.
well, I think it's interesting, and just to touch on this overall, I don't have a giant amount of things to say on this, but I do have some energetic advice. But as always, take what resonates. Don't take anything that doesn't. Modify it, get rid of it, whatever you choose. But there's a lot going on right now in terms of the Kate Middleton thing. It's all over a million podcasts, and I think it's super interesting the way that people are reacting. And people are dissecting down photoshopped pictures. They're talking about everything under the sun. And I don't want to talk about Kate specifically per se, but I do think it's interesting that I was at a friend's house the other day and her husband came literally running up the stairs saying, "Oh my God, did you hear about Kate?" And my friend's like, "Kate who?" And then it was like, "Oh no, oh no." And this was the second round of conspiracy when she did the now video that's a viral, that I'm fine and dandy, even though blah blah. And I think it's so interesting the way that we're jumping on that. I mean, good God, if I talk about how many people that I know right now that have cancer,
Oh,
and yet the whole entire world is talking about, is this cancer true or not true? And I think it's just so interesting the way that people still, regardless, glom on to the royal family, which I have my own issues with, and we won't get too deep into that. But
that's another conspiracy rabbit hole.
well, that is a conspiracy, I guess. So there has been a million conspiracies. Let's start with her, though, in terms of there is a million conspiracies, always has been, probably always will be,
Yeah.
about the royal family, because why wouldn't there be? I mean, this stuff goes back God knows how many years, and it's secretive anyway. And we know that there's so much story spinning anyway, right? And we
Right.
know all of this stuff. So there has been so many conspiracy theories on that family and that whole reign forever anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a big surprise that there's a new one, right?
No, I'm not surprised. No, no. I mean, as soon as she went in, to the hospital in December or whatever, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is going to be interesting to see how the media spins and does what they're going to do.
And I
Because
think what's so weird about me, because I've always been like this, oh, she went into the hospital in December. And then I go, or did she?
right. Was she in
And
the hospital? Where was
I
she?
think
Was she
I
really?
think my family sometimes thinks that I'm insane. So I'm going to go back a little bit to the QAnon time period when everything was crazy.
Oh my
And
God.
it was really heightened right before, the COVID mess. And then the COVID mess was a conspiracy, concept in and of itself, and on it went. So really seriously, the last 5, 6 years of everything has gone through the roof with conspiracy theories. And if we're smart, we know that even the word conspiracy theories was made up by this conspiracy theorists. I mean, that's part of the whole operation, that this is something that is created as a diversion, right?
Well, the word conspire is the base word of
Yeah.
conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
So conspire to put what message out for everyone to think, whatever they want.
And what's funny about it is when people glom onto conspiracy theories, they lose that ability to think whatever they want. They think that they're getting what they should or what is real. And in essence, 9 out of 10 times it's fabricated anyway and spun like crazy. I always think of cotton candy, when you're at a fair and the cotton candy just is like going nuts and the stick just keeps going around and getting bigger and bigger. That's what it feels like to me when you go down the rabbit hole. It's like, oh wow, I'm getting full of cotton candy. It's sticky and it just keeps swirling. And energetically speaking, this is my opinion. I think it's important to look at conspiracy theories. I do. I think it's important to allow yourself the flexibility and the possibility that there are things that you don't know, or things that you don't understand, or things that you could never conceptualize. Energetically, however, it's important to not get sucked into the rabbit hole and stuck in the cotton candy stick. And blatantly believe everything because that's the danger, and then not come out of the hole and look for another one and look for another one, because basically then you have been trapped into what the actual conspiracy is designed for,
Mhm.
which is taking you away from presence.
Right. And creating fear. So you're living
Yeah.
in a fear-based, oh my God, I got to find out the next thing. What else are they doing? Like what you go down that whole, that changes your whole demeanor. Like you said, you're sucked in.
And I think a lot of people throw judgment around like crazy on who's in what rabbit hole. I
Mhm.
remember when it was crazy, like I said, I was out in the world of trying to look at any rabbit hole and every rabbit hole under the sun. Just because of the work that I do that anyway, right?
Mhm.
And my kids were really starting to get worried. They're like, Mom, stop, look at that QAnon stuff. I never cared two craps about it, by the way, but I looked at it,
Mhm.
not constantly, but I would check in. And they started chatting behind, I'm throwing my kids under the bus on on a podcast. They started chatting about it amongst themselves. And one of my children thought that he was texting the other sibling, and he actually texted me
Oh,
about, yeah, I never told you that. Yeah, this was a doozer. And he hit send to me, unbeknownst, with this whole little monologue of mom's really losing it. She's, totally wearing her tinfoil hat 24/7. I'm kind of getting worried about her, this, that, and the other thing. And I literally called him right back up and I said, you hit the wrong button. And then it was just mortified. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I was really hurt. I felt super judged. I felt super attacked. And I will never forget, he felt really bad about it because he did. He was very judgmental about it, but he didn't know what else to do because he thought that I was really losing it. So he came over within the day, and I was outside chopping wood by hand of all things, and I was pissed. And so it made for a good chopping session. You know how you can do that. And so he comes pulling up and he's like, Mom. And I'm like, I go, let me chop a couple more pieces. And so finally, he just sat there patiently and we talked. And I said, what you don't understand, honey, is I said, you're automatically judging that your mom's believing in the rabbit hole.
right.
I said, I will 100% own the fact that I'm down a bunch of different rabbit holes pretty consistently lately. But what you don't understand is what I'm truly believing and not believing. You're assuming because I'm looking into it that there's truth in there for me, or that that's what's drawing me further in this, that, and the other thing. I said, rabbit holes to me are similar to like the Bible. It's paltering. It is a lot of truths and a lot of non-truths woven together. And I really believe that a skilled person, when they're doing their spiritual journey or opening up to other truths, enjoys the paltering experience, meaning I can go into that messaging and I can find a shard of truth over here and three non-truths, or vice versa.
Mhm.
And I think that's really cool because it's actually, for me, a practice in my body. And I tried to explain this to him, and I'm like, your mom really trusts the intuitive knowing inside of her body. And this is part of the message that I wanted to put out today energetically. Our bodies are designed for truth, our truth. My truth is different than your truth in terms of my knowledge, my intuition, my experiences, etc. And when we start to train our human vehicle to find that aha moment, to find that connection, we can really navigate paltering in a really freaking cool way, because it's like, holy crap, this is actually, oh my God, I found the shard of truth. And this is what leads you to more things. Or, oh my God, I found five shards of bullshit. I can just skip this one. And so it's really, really super interesting to me. So I see it as a human exercise for myself. Does that make any sense, or do I sound completely insane?
No, it totally makes sense because I also, when you're going down and you're reading about or listening to someone talk about some of these things, there are things that resonate. And what's interesting is then you see it somewhere else, where you're like, yep, that makes sense. But the rest of what you're saying, I just am not in tune
Right.
with. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's interesting, the whole conspiracy theory labeling has become a way of media discounting things that may be true by
Right.
saying they're conspiracy theorist or that's a conspiracy theory. People shut down immediately and like, oh, it's not true. It can't be true. It's a conspiracy.
Right.
I think the media is really using this in a way that is to put their own, spin on whatever is out there or to dispel truth potentially. for some things that are put out there.
And
And
that's why I think they created it in the first place. They
right,
created it to be a space where they can spin.
right.
I mean,
And
it's really clever.
right. So what do you feel like when you feel a shard of truth versus like for your body? What does your body feel like when that
Well,
happens?
you know, let's think of it like this. You're reading, you're wondering, you're kind of tense, you're kind of tight, and it's that relaxing into something. It's that inner knowingness of, you know, or Oprah years ago coined it the aha moment. And you can do it a number of ways. An aha moment can really bring you up, and it's like, holy shit, that's true. That's a big indicator for me.
Mhm.
There's another side of it, however, that's softer and more subtle that just settles in. Like, I know this. I've always known this. So it can run the gamut for me depending on what the information is. But I think what's really, really important, let's go back to Kate for a minute because people are unbelievably all over the board with this stuff. And, you know, I listened to one podcast the other day that, you know, I did a remote viewing on her and she, you know, she's not even on planet and this and that. And then there's the cloning things and there's, you know, there's the big, she's the second Diana and on it goes. So when I hear all of that, it makes me also really wonder how people that are so completely mainstream can't even consider the concept. I'm not saying she's cloned, but why would you not even consider the concept? Why wouldn't you leave yourself just open to a concept that's put in front of you to go, that could be possible. You know, I mean, this is what I do. You know, she went to the hospital, or did she? You know, and I don't care if she did or not. I mean, the point being is that I really don't care. And I don't mean this meanly, like I don't care about people. I just don't care about the whole big story, but I always think that there's another side. Why would we be okay with the concept of her going to the hospital because she's sick? Why are we okay, not okay, but okay with her having cancer? But God forbid we're not okay with a nefarious agenda that's changing and altering her because she's not fitting into the program right now. I mean, why are things so easily accepted when they're mainstream and normal? And that's, I think, what is an interesting part of conspiracy theories. It allows your brain to go, or is it?
Yeah. Like I really don't know for sure, but it's possible.
Yeah, and I think
You
the possibilities of those alternate realities are important for us to consider. And then I will have these fights with families and friends all the time, like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me that you think that. And I said, I didn't say I think that, but it could be a
yeah, right.
possibility. Oh my God, mom, or oh my God, Suzanne, there's no such thing as cloning. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, that
yes,
now
there is.
now we're on a different conversation because cloning has been around since the 30s and earlier probably, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, this is ridiculous to think that there isn't. And
Yes.
so when it would be more like to me, like if that was a possibility, then why is that a possibility? Point being is if that's a possibility, what's the possibilities of why they would want to do that? You know, so
Right.
for me, it just opens up more questions. And I don't think a lot of people use rabbit holes or conspiracy theories to just ponder.
Yeah, and I think the pondering is healthy
I do
because
too.
what's happening is they're disclosing information in whatever that is important, that shard of whatever you might get of truth out of that,
Hmm.
like you said, um, and you'll start to see not necessarily even another conspiracy theory, but just something out there that's like, oh,
I
that's
might have to look into that. I
yeah.
might have to think about that, you know?
Right. But the difference is you're not going down that rabbit hole and you're not trying to convince everybody else that this is real and this is really what it's like and you're not
That's the one,
attached to all of it.
right?
It's there's a whole different yeah, for me
And
it's
you do
really-
deserve a tinfoil hat because you've removed yourself from reality completely and you're sucked into this. I see a conspiracy theory sometimes like a vortex that goes down like you took the drain. I see it like cotton candy all the way down to the drain when you take the plug out and you're just getting sucked in. Just
oh
ooh,
yeah.
right? Well,
Right.
when you're so sucked in, you don't even see half of what's going on. And I think this is part of the conspiracy tactic. If
Mhm.
I'm so into all the bullshit that's flying around and I'm working and I'm studying and I'm learning about all the more conspiracies around one subject, what the heck are you missing on the news that's blatantly right in front of your face? Or
Right.
what is happening, you know, in the mainstream such and such, especially in a political year, people. You know, what is stuck in front of your face that you are saying yes to that you don't even know that you're saying yes to? These are things that I think are super important for us to be aware that, yes, there's a balance in here. There's a balance of curiosity, but if I'm completely consumed, and I oftentimes will get clients in here that are really seriously conspiracy people. Lots of times it happens during the college age, because college kids, they're finally being free feeling enough to do their own lifestyles and beliefs, etc., which is a great thing. But then you're around all the other college kids, and then it becomes this whole society of, you know, the conspiracies, and then, you know, you're whooping it up and you're talking to each other all day, and it just gets to be this cycle at that age. Lots of kids
Oh my
lose
gosh.
themselves in that college age, and then they're not doing their studies, and they're not doing their social, and they're not doing, you know, and it is 100% distraction, and that's when it's super dangerous. So I do have clients in here that are very frightened and scared because they're following things. So again, if I all of a sudden read a conspiracy theory that they're cloning Kate, I can freak out about cloning. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, they're cloning people. Well, duh. Then maybe do your homework to say that's not that odd of a thing. I mean, we're so silly that we think that those things aren't going on anyway. And why it has to relate to you sitting in White Bear Lake as a house, you know, I mean, in your house, Suzanne, has nothing to do with anything. It's always been there anyway. So get over it. So
Mhm.
that's the balance that I try to do, if that even makes any sense too.
No,
I
it
sound
totally
like
makes
a
sense.
gamer.
I think that things are put into movies on purpose. I think that,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, books and all the different, where it's like you think you're reading kind of sci-fi, but no, some of
Yeah.
this stuff is really going on. And if you look back at like older movies and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
it's like, wow, like we're really actually doing this right now. Like
Hmm.
you thought
Hmm.
it was like no possible way that that could ever happen. And it's
Even
actually,
the old Star Treks, you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, all the
Mhm.
time. So that's super normal. There's a
Right.
lot of things that are now normal. And someday we will be talking very normally about cloning because it's not going anywhere. I
Mhm.
think what's important, however, like I said earlier, is what's the purpose behind the maneuver. And I really want to point out something with the laws of energy. When it comes to a nefarious or negative agenda, it is critical that they actually do put truth in front of your face.
Mhm.
So there are shards of truth, whether it's paltered or weaved or braided, but there are always shards of truth for their nefarious agenda, whether it's packaged in whatever, in a conspiracy theory or a retort to the
Mhm.
conspiracy theory. It's always packaged in there so that we are, in essence, giving consent. And we talked about this before. If you don't weave through the weave, navigate the weave, go through the weave and say, I don't consent to that. I don't consent to that. Somehow in your body or
Mhm.
even in your mind, you're consenting to everything. And people don't understand that. This is the nefarious agenda's easiest way to get consent for anything that is negative. And we just blind eye it because that's silly. That's a sci-fi movie.
Mhm.
So remember, when we are navigating these things, it's critical that our body says, oh, hell no, I don't want that. I don't consent to that. There's no way I would consent to them doing something like that. It's a mechanism to go through the conspiracy information and chop out what does not serve you, whether you believe it or not. It's important because if we ignore it and put the blinders on, we are consenting, and that's their green light to go further and further and further.
That's a really great point because I think I've become a little complacent in like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, that's, you know, that
Hmm.
doesn't feel right. But I'm not saying I do not consent.
Hmm.
I'm just kind of letting it go by, not letting it attach to me, but I'm not saying I do not consent.
And
So
it
that,
doesn't have to be a big, huge, you know, burn ritual to the sky. It's just
Mhm.
literally tapping into that thing and having your intention of your heart head connect and say, that is horrific. I do not consent to anything like that if it's
Mhm.
true. I mean, because we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
And they are so clever. The negative agenda is so clever on how to get momentum and energetic approval for the things that they're doing because of the way that they package. They're the biggest spin
Right.
masters of the world, you know, and 9 out of 10 times they own the media. I mean, that's, well, 12 out of
They
10
do own the
times
media.
they own the media, right? So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
where it gets solidified. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's interesting. Back to the Kate one. The other thing is somebody like the royal family is always going to get our attention. Why?
Mhm,
Because this is a trigger to a huge archetypal, happily ever after Disney program, the prince, the princess, who's taking care of who's really the villain, all of that stuff that's the only physicality that's played out on this planet still that is so close to all of those programs in reality that we are always interested in what they're
right.
doing. But if people sit there and think that it's all happily ever after, you might want to do a little bit more homework
Mhm.
because obviously it's not.
Yeah, I think it's really important to look into some things, but not to be consumed with those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Because if you're aware, you're what you choose to do and how you live your life is different. When you're aware of some of those things, you might make a few different choices, or you might go down a little bit different path with understanding some of that. So
And again, watch your empathing, you empaths that are out there listening, because I mean, even when I was at my friend's house and the husband came up, my friend is a huge empath and truly is struggling with a whole lot of personal things in her own life, by
mm,
the way, including some journeys with people that are sick or gone or leaving, as we all are right now. And her attention immediately went to, oh my God, that's horrible. She has 3 kids, blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there and I thought, oh, there you go.
yeah,
There we all do it. We all do it. No, not all of
yeah,
us, but most of us do it in terms of, yep, now I just turned on my empathing for somebody halfway around the planet that God, I don't even know. And it's a storyline and who even knows if it's real and all that stuff. And there's these and I'm not saying you don't be compassionate. Don't misunderstand this. I am compassionate to someone if they do have a cancer journey and if, God forbid, they are a mom of 3 that leaves the planet and the kids are there.
yeah.
I get that. And I send compassion, but I don't hang on to that and weave it in because what that does is then it starts to ignite that same empathic fuel loss for everything and everybody. Then I
Mhm.
start to go, oh, and this friend has it, and that family member has it, and now this one, oh my God, my life is overwhelmed. Everybody's sick, everybody's dying. And then it just starts that
It's
ball roll.
going. Yeah, it keeps going. And before you know it, you're so sad and depressed and anxious, and all of the things are happening in your body because you're taking it all on.
And then you're sick.
And yeah,
I mean, this is what we're doing. We're
right.
just, we're hitting the volleyball all over the court here and everybody's picking up on everybody's everything. So yeah, I mean, send, if you chose to, the royal family some compassion and some love, and then cut that cord, be aware, but don't go digging, digging, digging like, oh my God, she's going to die. What's going to happen? Just really
Right.
detrimental to everybody's health.
Yeah.
So,
And the good perspective that was it was so hard for me to do this, but talking to a woman yesterday, or on Friday about prayer. And when I was talking to her, I'm like, the hardest thing is to realize you're not in control and
mhm,
that everyone has a journey.
mhm,
And you need to let them have their journey and not take on all of the things around that. And,
exactly.
as an empath. And that's very similar to the conspiracy theory stuff.
Yep.
You're just not taking it into your body, but you're becoming aware. And that's part of using the logical,
Yep.
um, deciphering information. I think in school we were taught a lot about how to decipher information, and I just don't see people really doing that. They glob on and they're in. Like this
Well, they're either
logic.
in or they're out. And I think that's what's super interesting. The other one that has been a hot button for quite a few years and goes hot and cold, not cold, cold, but hot and cold is the UFO stuff right now.
Yeah.
And we are very well aware of the paltering there. We are very well, if you study anything on the UFO disclosure stuff, you can follow the traces of how much the conspiracy theories are actually designed and put in place for us to, whoa, over here. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden it's
right.
like, oh,
Oh,
push your face over here and look. And then it's like, oh, we're these little puppet masters when it comes to
yeah.
UFOlogy. And it's been a big thing in the last several years. And then it makes me giggle so hard when you hear things like, oh, but look, the government's finally admitting it. Well, they're part of the conspiracy theory
They're
in
the
terms
ones
of
that are
they're
altering
feeding they're
information.
feeding you exactly what they want you to hear so that you
Yeah.
you know you're doing this, that, and the other thing. So these aren't going to go away. I think
No.
it's interesting how the royal family one came out of left field, but it might be for bigger reasons that I
Other
guess.
distractions that we don't even understand right
Yeah.
now. But looking
Yeah.
back, it'll be like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what was happening while
And
we
you
were
can look
ahead.
back on the calendars and just
Mhm.
go, oh my goodness, this is silly. I mean, think of the conspiracies that were running around during, the whole pandemic business and prior to.
Well,
And
and when you're talking about UFOs, that's so interesting because I think part of the conspiracy part of this is that we're not ready to really experience the whole UFO thing, but they're putting enough out that it's becoming common to hear
yeah,
about UFOs. But in preparation for what? Like what is coming later potentially?
right.
Because now we're starting to get used to, oh yeah, there is, and the government has said there is, and we know that there's, government different ships and different things that they're doing where we don't know what they are. We don't
Mhm.
understand that. But at the same time, it's becoming very common in the news media to hear
Well,
about
and they're linking it. They're very clever on how they link it. They link it faster and faster to the government and more to the government so
yeah,
that now you are going to automatically, if the day comes, whether it's a fake invasion or a real invasion, we're
right.
automatically going to be looking to the government for the savior program again. And that becomes very dangerous.
Oh
That
gosh.
becomes very dangerous. And
Oh,
so all of our, our sovereignty and freedoms are being manipulated all the time in the press and we don't know it because it becomes commonplace. It's dumbing you down again. And so and there's a million different places you can get your information. And oftentimes I'll listen to all kinds of podcasts or videos and opinions. And I remember going to the cabin one time and I was listening to just this ridiculous one. And my husband's like, why do you believe this? And I said, I don't believe any of this. And he's like, well, then why are you listening to it? And I said, to confirm to myself that I don't believe it. It's important. And he's like, what? He had right
yeah.
over his head. He's like, I don't even understand it. On the flip side of that, if I keep hearing that, and I keep hearing that, and I keep hearing that, by about the seventh time, I will be believing it. So there's a fine line in there too, to own your freedom and your own truth in there, and then cut that crap off because you don't want to be, brainwashed either by constant manipulation like the UFO story. So there's just a lot to this and it's not going to go anywhere. But again, I think the reason why I wanted to bring it forward is use your body. Our body is designed inside, outside, around it to be able to understand what is something that makes me comfortable. The better you get, even at your auric bubble, you can be walking through a room listening to the news and absolutely from 5 feet from the television go, that is such crap.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to stop and listen to that because there's a shard of truth in that. So just the auric bubble itself is a designator. The actual insides is a designator. Do your best if you choose to just let the monkey mind take the back seat and let the head and heart really be the pusher and the driver of this stuff
Mhm.
versus the manipulation in the head. Because remember, the Trinity of Source, Father, Mother, Child, God is Father is thought, child is action, mother is emotion. And our entire existence on this planet almost has taken out mother. Why? Because then we only have thought and action. We are told what to think and how to act, and it's manipulation. When Mother God energies came back into this frequency, what, 2, 3 years ago, when we have emotion, it's our personal responsibility, in my opinion, to activate that true emotion set in the actual meat and bone body, but also in the emotional field
Mhm.
so that it holds a frequency that says that is crap or boy, I better look into that because that really hit me.
Mhm.
So these are important for us because we have been activated in the last several years to be designed to have a triad in balance, whereas before we were off balance.
Mhm.
So that's part of the restructure. It's our job. We're restructuring this holographic reality on purpose so that we can get some control here,
Yeah.
not here.
Right. Right. The outside influences, it's amazing to me how controlling that is
Yeah.
and how you really have to work at it.
Yeah.
It's there all the
And it's
time.
and it's only going to get worse.
Oh my God, this year I just am like, good
Yeah.
grief, already.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. So
But
again, take what resonates, everybody. I know I just wanted to sort of jump on it because everything's about Kate right now, which indeed, sending her love and kindness if that is the case. And if it isn't, sending her even more love and kindness, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, so great. Anything else, or you think that's good?
I think that was really good. I think you can, I mean, we can do another spin on it later on another podcast, but
Yeah.
for today, I
And
think that
interesting.
was
Good.
It's
All
really good
right.
information.
Thanks for listening. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the share button, or subscribe. And we always appreciate you telling others about us. We're here for you. Let us know if there's a subject matter that you like, maybe in the comments area. And until next time, everybody, cosmic hugs.
Goodbye.